And we're back, guys, ready for our round 2. So Bryce Facey versus Yoav Reuven. We'll show Bryce's team here first. Bryce, another one of our players who he's been around for a while. I believe he's been around since about the COVID era, back when we were playing online, and really had a flare the last few years. Had a couple of unfortunate close misses to top 8, coming 9th at the 2025 Perth Regionals after an undefeated run in Swiss, and 9th at the 2024 Melbourne Regionals as well. Also coming top 32 at Brisbane Regionals last year as well. But yeah, he's always been, ever since he started playing, he's been doing really well, doing really consistently. He puts in a lot of hard work when it comes to learning teams. I've been able to team build with him a bit, and he really puts in a lot of effort for all the teams that he does and making sure he learns how to play them really well. And it really pays off, as you can see with his results. And he is showcasing another restricted duo that we haven't gotten to see yet, being one we also haven't touched on really, being that Zacian Kyogre team.
Yeah, the Swordfish or the Soggy Doggy, or just that archetype. Back, it was strong and prevalent in the Sword and Shield era. Back for a showcasing now here in the Scarlet and Violet Regulation I format, alongside some trusty pals. We've got the Tornadus, the Amoonguss, Incineroar, and the Urshifu Rapid Strike.
Yeah, so Tornadus and Urshifu very solidly placed themselves as kind of staples on most rain teams nowadays. Excuse me. Tornadus being able to set up that rain again in case something like Sun hits the field or a Terrapagos erases that rain. And also having access to those really fast tailwinds. That amazing move in Bleak Wind, which I think is probably the best move that we've seen introduced since Surging Strikes. And Urshifu hitting through Protect, critting every hit. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely nasty there. We're gonna touch on Amoonguss because I don't think we've seen Amoonguss yet. This one is Terra Normal, and it is Focus Sash on the Amoonguss as well, which is, could be interesting. That's something I haven't seen since Turbo Shroom, but maybe this one's not quite like that. But we are gonna see potentially Spore come out of play and showcase the power of sleep in Pokemon.
Yeah, so you've got that standard Incineroar, safety goggles, generally for opposing Amoonguss, Will-O-Wisp. We saw that in the last game, being on those sets, but unfortunately didn't get to see them use. Kind of an interesting fourth option on the Urshifu of Rock Tomb as well, for a bit more of that speed control that we don't normally see on it, where we see either Coaching or Aqua Jet. But I think we should also take some time to talk about Yoav, how his career has been and what he's running. So take it away.
Yeah, so Yoav, Yoav has quite a lot of strong results here. I believe one of them is a 3rd place in the Players Cup 3 in the Global Finals, alongside a top 32 at Perth in 2024, EUYC top 128 in 2024, which is an excellent showing as well. 9th in Global Challenge 1 in 2025 as well, so showing that regardless of the best of 1 or the best of 3 format, Yoav's got results to back it. And Yoav's running one of the pairings traditionally what we've seen in the Zamazenta and the Calyrex Shadow Rider.
Yeah, so we've talked about it a lot, but we haven't actually seen it today, but we get to see it here. Yoav showcasing that Calyrex Shadow Rider Zamazenta crown, and opting with the Focus Sash on the Calyrex, which is one of the few items that people have been using on it. A lot of the time we see Focus Sash, Spell Tag, Life Orb, Focus Sash just being a bit more consistent into opposing Pokemon, giving it a bit more of that longevity, and going with that Terra Normal, which is really big into opposing Calyrex Shadow.
Yeah, quite nice for that. A lot of pretty interesting Terra decisions on Yoav's end. There's the Water on the Rillaboom with the Miracle Seed. That's generally from what I've experienced. With Miracle Seed, they sometimes like to be Terra Grass, just for that extra bit of oomph on their grass attacks. because the Assault Vest is placed on the Raging Bolt on this team.
Yeah, so we're in our last set. Whereas in our last set, we saw Assault Vest on the Rillaboom, we saw Life Orb on the Raging Bolt. This time, those roles are reversed. Rillaboom wanting to hit that bit harder with that Miracle Seed, and Raging Bolt wanting to take hits a bit better with that Assault Vest, but not to be put out and still wanting to get a bit of a special, not necessarily a special attack boost, but an electric type boost, going with that Terra Electric to buff up those electric type moves that it'll be using. Rillaboom, that Terra Water, really nice into things like Calyrex Ice, which Rillaboom generally doesn't want to be in front of, but with that Terra Water, it lets it live those hits enough for those Wood Hammers to really put in a lot of work. And something we haven't seen on Incineroar today is we've got the Rocky Helmet.
Yeah, we do have the Rocky Helmet out there on the Incineroar. For what I saw, the first thing we're going to be showcasing it today is Wide Guard, move that I feel is definitely going to be something that picks up and is quite strong in the Regulation I format. A lot of these big, restricted, damaging moves are spread moves, and Wide Guard being able to force an opponent to either respect it, not have it freely clicked, could work well in Yoav's favor, especially against Kyogre, where Kyogre's big water attacks are coming from that water spout and Origin Pulse. And even though the Zacian is there on the side of Bryce, I'm excited to see Wide Guard come out to play as well, because it also stops Tornadus from throwing out Bleakman Storms as well.
Yeah, Wide Guard being one of those big reasons that Zamazenta has been kind of splashable on a bunch of teams lately. Just gives them that option of, you want an Astral Barrage, you want a Water Spout, Origin Pulse. As you were saying, they really need to think about if that's what they're actually going to click. But we're going to go over pretty soon and get these players started. Hopefully get them to team preview pretty soon and then get this game rolling. We hope you all enjoyed our first set of the day between Jack and Dimitri. But we're going to get into another really interesting and really cool matchup between these two great players now.
It's been great to showcase, I was just about to say, it's great not just to showcase these players, but different restricted archetypes as well, because we haven't had any double ops yet, which has been quite nice to see.
Yeah, so it's been really cool showcasing some of the kind of lesser seen restrictors, because like we said before, Ho-Oh we haven't seen throughout the entirety of Reg G really at all. And having that next to Groudon, we've seen it, but we haven't seen it much. And making a really good, really solid Suncore. And yeah, like, it just puts in so much work. But on the flip side, this set, we're going to be seeing that Rain Core instead. That Kyogre, that Tornadus, that Urshifu that come together so well, so solidly. Pairing it with that Zacian, which another thing that it rose up a bit in Reg G. We had it have some nice showings last year at LA in kind of the Reg G A season, as people call it. But I don't believe we've seen it too much in the Reg G, the second half of Reg G. So it's cool to see it making another rise here in Regulation I.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see that as well. It's packing that substitute move where normally Zacians generally like to have an extra bit of coverage there. Didn't really touch on that. Substitute, I think, is an absolute sleeper move at the moment. I see, honestly, nothing with it. It'd be exciting to see what the options are as these trainers are looking to lock in and selecting their four. I think Bryce is just sitting there thinking on his last at the moment.
Yeah, and that Raging Bolt on the opposing side, sitting in a kind of really good position. It threatens a lot onto a large spread of Bryce's team. Those Thunderclaps hitting hard, taking those big Water Spouts and big Origin Pulses pretty well with that Assault Vest and Dragon typing. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup between these two players.
Yeah, so we see the Raging Bolt and the Zamazenta just lead out the gate there from Yoav, and from Bryce we see the Urshifu and the Incineroar.
Yeah, so again, same as last set, seeing these big fake out leads next to something that hits very hard. That Raging Bolt really pressuring down this Urshifu at the moment, and Zamazenta It's such a wall, or I guess as you should call it, such a shield. It's a tank. It's there to soak up those hits, and getting access to body press with Scarlet and Violet has opened up its options so much. It turned it from one of the least used restricteds we've ever seen to one of the most used. It's so good. Those body presses, stab, +1 boost, and a naturally massive defense stat hits so hard.
Yeah, and also not needing to worry about the Intimidate that a lot of teams like to have to offset physical damage. Doesn't work for body press. Zami doesn't care about that one. So
that's for sure.
We're seeing a quick switch into Amoonguss here. That was in exchange for the Urshifu, I believe.
Yeah, so Bryce realizing the threat that Raging Bolt is holding over the Urshifu, getting it out, getting in that support mon of Amoonguss, and the Insyn covering itself, making sure it doesn't need to burn its Terry yet to resist a body press, and faking out the Zama.
Alright, see the Thunderbolt there doing quite a sizable chunk to that Incineroar there. Not looking to pay too much, knowing that the Urshifu was looking like it'll probably switch, fearing a Thunderclap, and not wanting to burn Terra immediately, so Yoav capitalized well on that decision there.
Yeah, catching the Yoav realizing that there could be a defensive switch, even something like an Aqua Jet offsets a Thunderclap, and just the safe play of, I'm going to get some consistent damage down on the board right now. You can only fake out one of these things. That Incineroar is taking some damage this turn no matter what. The fake out, going into the Zamazenta. Zamazenta defensively tearing, doesn't really want to take Surging Strikes if it doesn't have to, but down goes the Incineroar. That Zamazenta showing why it's such a threat, and then it's the Dragon Pulse coming out from the Raging Bolt, dealing some good damage to this Amoonguss as well.
Yeah, very big damage there. Looking to put one of many threats to sleep here with Spore. So Zamazenta is going for a bit of a nap now. Wondering what we're going to see coming here. Will it be that Urshifu that we've seen? Or will it be one of the restricteds that Bryce has brought? Because we've seen the 3. So is it a Kyogre? Is it the Zacian? Or has he just decided to bring Torn instead?
Yeah, so it's always a really interesting discussion about how you should bring your restrictors to each game, because it's not always each game that they should be coming. There's different things that they're good and bad into. But it is that Kyogre, which is kind of an indicator of why this Amoonguss has put that Zamazenta to sleep instead of the Raging Bolt. You can redirect those Raging Bolt moves, but the Zamazenta, at least for this turn, cannot go for something like a Wide Guard, so you're guaranteed to get off at least one of these big potential water spouts from that Kyogre.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Amoonguss, another interesting thing to note as well that we didn't really touch on is its Focus Sash is now broken. There are things like the Ogerpon Hearthflame and that sort of, and those Pokemon, even the Calyrex Shadow, that have the potential to one-shot an Amoonguss, but that Focus Sash being broken means that it's now in range of any of those hits.
Cool. And I do believe we're going to see a Terastallization come out from Bryce here. And it's on the Kyogre, which is now going to be a grass type, so it's going to be able to take those Thunderclaps much more comfortably.
Yeah, so Bryce, understanding that maybe I don't want to be going for those Rage Bouters here, I want to be getting damage off now. Spore is really good for me, so allowing himself to resist those hits. Yoav, kind of going, you can click whatever you want there. I'm going for consistent damage, not necessarily super effective damage. Getting off that Dragon Pulse, which is getting that Water Spout's power a bit lowered. We see both these Pokemon resisting that damage, but it's still good, consistent damage from that Kyogre. And now both of these Pokemon are asleep.
Yeah, both those Pokemon taking a snooze. Raging Bolt has a guaranteed turn of sleep. Zamazenta may wake up if it's a bit of an early bird, but only time will tell. We'll see. We'll see if the Zamazenta wants to wake up and look to go for a Wide Guard here, looking to attempt to block a water move coming out from the Kyogre.
Even something like a Body Press could be really big. This Amoonguss has access to Pollen Puff with those two Pokemon fast asleep and the Zamazenta staying asleep. it's hard not to imagine that you'd get a pollen puff going into this Kyogre to get those water spouts right back up to that full power. Because, God, it hits so hard. An Origin Pulse is great. A full power water spout, even better, because at least that way, you're also not risking those misses that kind of let Groudon and Kyogre down a lot in Reg G.
Yeah, you absolutely bang on the money there. We did see that side pollen puff coming out. Kyogre back to being relatively healthy again. Among Us being a part poison type, maybe it's looking out going, I can take a body press. As we can see, because there's no terrestrialization on Yoav's end, as it's been used on the Zamazenta, maybe they're going to have an opportunity to look to throw out the single target ice move on the Raging Bolt, which has been switched out, and looks like it's going into a
Calyrex Shadow. So Raging Bolt switching out in favor for this Calyrex Shadow. Calyrex really not wanting to switch into a water type, but the Zamazenta wakes up and gets that Wide Guard off. Wide Guard stopping the potential water spout, stopping the potential Origin Pulse. If it doesn't wake up there, that is very, very scary for Yoav, but Zamazenta coming through. But it's that Ice Beam instead, guaranteeing a bit of damage onto that Bolt, and the freeze on the Ice Beam switch in.
That is not what Yoav wants to see right now, coming in. Just another case of Calyrex just not having a good Monday. Not having a good day.
So that Zamazenta came through massively. Big Wide Guard, guaranteeing that Calyrex isn't taking one of those big water moves. But that Ice Beam, while it does maybe not as good damage as the water types moves are gonna do, that Ice Beam freeze, that secondary effect is so massive when it comes out. That Calyrex could thaw out this turn and nothing may as well have not been frozen, or it could be frozen for the rest of the game. There's so many variants of what freeze can do. It's why people don't enjoy it a lot. People never like when their own Pokemon get frozen, and frozen solid it stays.
Yeah, I see the body press coming out. That is very big damage onto the Kyogre. But sees through it. There's the Origin Pulse coming out there, getting a double knockout there. We'll see if that's followed up with a side pollen puff, or if Bryce was looking to cover maybe a potential switch or a potential damage roll on there. There's the Spore coming out there, so looking to cover bases for a potential switch.
Yeah, so unfortunate for Yoav there. Without that freeze, if it was able to get a move off, something like an Astral Barrage just to finish off that KO on the Kyogre, or even just to protect and make sure that it's sticking around the turn, both would have been so big, so pivotal in... Honestly, it likely would have kept him with both of his restricteds, but instead, the Calyrex not able to move, the Body Press not enough damage, and both Origin Pulse hits connecting. Yoav's down both his restricteds, and that Raging Bolt is still asleep.
Yeah, I don't believe Raging Bolt stayed into burn a sleep turn, so I still think it has a sleep turn that it is required to take. He may be looking down, but definitely not out of this game. A first turn wait coming out of the Raging Bolt in a future turn could end up being quite favorable for Yoav.
The Fake Out comes out, critical hit, does a good amount of damage, not quite enough to pick up the Kyogre, but the Raging Bolt still asleep, the Pollen Puff coming out, Rain stopping, Rain going down, but that Pollen Puff regaining that Kyogre so much HP puts the Kyogre in such a good position here. It's out of range of a potential Dragon Pulse. Those water moves hitting the Incineroar so hard.
Yeah, gonna be quite nasty. We see an Ice Beam coming out there, just looking to take out the Raging Bolt, but the Raging Bolt hangs on, taking another turn of sleep, so not the first turn wake up. And we're going to see a Flare Blitz. That's just going to look to take out the Among Us here.
Yeah, there have been so much up and so much down for this Raging Bolt. For Yoav entirely in this game, these turns have been the Zamazenta woke up, got the Wide Guard, but the Calyrex froze. We've got the Raging Bolt living the Ice Beam, but staying asleep. It's the versatility of these matches, of these games, these secondary effects and these status effects. has such a big impact. We've seen sleep this game. We've seen freeze. We've seen all these things just come together to kind of make this match what it is. And while it goes up and down on some sides, it often makes the game.
Oh, looks like the match was cancelled there. Yoav, knowing defeat at this point, and decided to lock in and focus in on adapting for a game 2.
Yeah, so really well played from both players. Both players, they're making really good adjustments. I think Yoav absolutely smashed the lead. Yoav seems so far ahead from our base turn 1. He had Raging Bolt and Zamazenta in front of Urshifu and Incineroar. He was applying so much pressure, forcing that Urshifu out, getting the early KO on the Incineroar turn 2. But when that Amoonguss and Kyogre hit the field, once that Zamazenta was asleep, it was really hard to break through the Terra Grass and the Spores. We saw the defensive switches, we saw the defensive Terra. The Zamazenta and the Raging Bolt were taking those hits, but the longer they stayed asleep, the worse it got. And that freeze on the switch-in was really detrimental there, because it meant the Calyrex that could have really supported that Zamazenta didn't get to do its job.
Yeah, very, very nasty hit there for Yoav with that freeze. Bryce showcasing just the power of Spore and just the power of Amoonguss support with those Pollen Puffs, just keeping Kyogre just healthy and being able to protect it as well with those Rage Powders. Just in that,
in that game 1, we saw Bryce only bring one of his restricted Pokemon. Is there having that knowledge from game 1? Is there any adjustment that you'd maybe like to see from Yoav, or do you think there's anything that, like, on that lead being so rough, do you think there's adjustment that Bryce could maybe do or see from both of these players?
I definitely think there can be an adjustment made from Bryce, just to have a better time into that potential lead. Yoav, I think, just hit the lead absolutely right out the park. I think with Yoav's mindset might be gone. I still feel I played well. My leads were right. Just a bit unlucky with that freeze. So maybe there might be no adaptation made from Yoav, but we'll see what happens as we are getting locked into the game 2 starting now.
So there is an adjustment turn 1. No more Raging Bolt on the lead. And there's actually the double adjustment. So from Yoav, we've got that Ogerpon Hearthflame making its first appearance in this set. Next to the Zamazenta that we saw before. We still have the Incin on Bryce's side. But next to it, that Zacian also for the first time this set coming to play.
Yeah, so Zacian with its Intrepid Sword getting that +1 attack. But not really liking the look of staring down either of these two too much. The Zamazenta with the boosted defense, the Ogerpon resisting both of its moves in Behemoth Blade and Play Rough. With the potential for Zamazenta to immediately threaten Incineroar as well, because even though it's been intimidated, that body press comes off that defense stat. That's still going to hurt Incineroar.
Yeah, so once again, Yoav pressuring a lot of offensive damage on from this lead, from this turn 1, while Bryce has that Intimidate, has that Fake Out. He's got that more supportive pressure there. And, like, there's this huge... there's this Terra here. Terra Dragon, not something we commonly see on Zacian. Generally, we're seeing Ground, Water, or Fairy to either boost the damage or resist hits. This is to resist hits in a different way. You're resisting that common Fire, Water, Grass core, which is perfect when you're in front of something such as this Hearthflame. Going for that -1 Ivy Cudgel into, which would have been super effective onto that Zacian, but instead it's into the resisted Substitute, which doesn't actually manage to break it either.
Yeah, dealing less than that 25% there. That means the Substitute gets to stay around, so Zacian also able to dodge and intimidate if Incineroar comes in, thanks to that Substitute being up on the field now. So Bryce is looking pretty nice with that Zacian behind that sub there. The damage it's still threatening, still not the greatest. But we'll see how that goes. Incineroar can look to potentially slow down Yoav.
Yeah, so the Intimidate's putting in a lot of work into the Ogerpon, less work into the Zamazenta, but still really important. Like you see where you see those fake outs, turn one, allow the Zacian to go for things like that substitute, only having to worry about the resisted hit that it was potentially taking from the Ogerpon. Play rough coming out here, still doing decent damage to the Zamazenta, dealing about 20-30%. And a double up coming into what was that Incineroar, the body press, and the Ivy Cudgel. So Yoav really covering his bases there on this. Incineroar doesn't have the ability to Terror anymore. There's a good chance it's going to switch into something. That Amoonguss is a pretty good target, making sure that it does not come in for free.
Yeah, it cost almost Amoonguss's life. With that very good double in there from Yoav. There is something interesting on Yoav as well. There's no grass move on that half flame, so there is always the option that we can see a fourth move there in Helping Hand on the Ogerpon.
Yeah, a move that Yoav has been a big fan of throughout Reg G. Yoav being one of my locals, he has often played Calyrex Shadow next to that Helping Hand on the half flame. It puts in so much damage. It deals... Like, it's so good. It's so hard because it just... Calyrex is very used to killing everything, KOing everything anyway. Just does even more damage. But we do see that a second Ivy Cudgel from that half flame is able to take out that substitute on the Zacian. Even through the -1, even through the resist. And now the Zacian has to be wary of these big body pressures that come out. This Amoonguss is very low. You can redirect this turn if you like, but that will likely be the last turn that it redirects for the game.
Yeah, so Bryce is in a spot where he's got to make the call here on what he feels is the right thing to do. Looking to see if he can get more damage out, try and keep Zacian healthy, maybe look to put something to sleep. But that's the follow me.
Yeah, so instead of opting for the offensive option on the Ogerpon, Yoav going for the defensive option, making sure that Zamazenta isn't taking the damage, that we put it a bit lower. Also, could cover an Amoonguss Spore, just in case that was happening, but the body press goes off without a hitch. Amoonguss goes down. It was low enough that even that resisted hit is in range of KOing. And this kind of the big pivotal support that was so important in game one is no longer on the field, no longer going to be coming back on the field this game. And Bryce is going to have to figure out how to kind of try to mitigate the damage that could be coming out now.
Yeah, so I do believe that Bryce's fourth is unrevealed and the Incineroar was on lead. The fourth, from what we can see here, is Urshifu. So it'll be able to throw off some big surging strikes. We do need to keep in mind, though, that Zamazenta does have a defensive terrestrialization option to offset that damage from the Urshifu.
It sure does, and it's often better to do that defensive terrestrialization rather than just go for losing one of your support Pokemon like that. But this Ogerpon, it's kind of done its job. It's helped with the Amoonguss. The Amoonguss is gone now. It doesn't have a grass move, so it's not going to be trying to take the KOs on this Urshifu. You might want to preserve your terrestrialization and let this Ogerpon go down this turn, because it's going to be living at least a hit from the Zacian if you want to try to get a swing with it, or even a Helping Hand body press could actually take a KO on one of these Pokemon.
Yeah, that's what I was eyeing off. The idea of like a Helping Hand body press onto something like that Urshifu, or even the Zamazenta, or even the Zacian, sorry. But it's elected to follow me.
Yeah, so the Scarf on the Urshifu, allowing it to move before the Zacian. So if there was ever a follow me coming out there, the Zacian is going to be hitting the second. So that the Terra Water there, defensive, maybe not necessarily for this turn, but for following turns, just making sure that that's there, that's used, and that's what you're locking in. Huge body press damage coming out down onto the Zamazenta. From the Zamazenta onto the Zacian, sorry. Zacian very low now, and Calyrex Shadow hitting the field really comfortably. It should be outspeeding that Zacian, and the Urshifu's locked into close combat.
Yeah, so not the move you'd want to be locked into there with the Urshifu taking down the Ogerpon to see probably the one Pokemon that wants to take that more than anything. We could see potentially what Bryce wants to do. He does have the Incineroar in the back that can take on the Calyrex Shadow Rider nicely, but doesn't really want to look at Zamazenta.
Yeah, so Zamazenta Calyrex here threatening a big Astral Barrage Body Press combination. Being locked into that close combat. Not the best for the Urshifu here. It could have pivoted out, but Bryce, reading the writing on the walls, understanding that this isn't the best position for me, I don't believe I can come back from this position, and I'm going to move on to game 3. So, a really good adjustment from Yoav there. That Hearth Flame putting in massive work, both defensively and offensively, helping catch the Amoonguss on the switch in. Just resisting all of those big hits that Zacian brought out. And considering we didn't see the Zacian game 1, that was a really good call for Yoav to make.
Yeah, the Ogerpon putting in the big work. We did see a lack of rain, and we saw that rain be very strong in that game 1 as well. I would imagine there would potentially be the Rillaboom or the Raging Bolt as Yoav's 4th in that game 2, just to cover for that option of the Kyogre coming out, because the Raging Bolt's Assault Vest, it still resists a bunch of Kyogre's hits, and it still deals big damage, even without any Photosynthesis boosts. Like, it's still incredibly strong.
Absolutely. That Amoonguss next to that Kyogre in game 1 put in so much work. Redirecting potential body presses, putting things to sleep to shut down the wide guard, pollen puffing back up to that Kyogre. It was like the Ho-Oh in our first set. The Kyogre went down to so low just to come back up with pollen puff and start hitting harder again. I wouldn't be surprised to see something come out from Bryce revolving around that Amoonguss, that Kyogre, trying to position them to get into a spot to sweep like game 1. Yoav, knowing this, he's just adjusted to the Hearth Flame. He's seen the Zacian come out. He caught that amazingly and shut it down so hard. But like you said, there's that Rillaboom. There's that Raging Bolt. If Yoav is expecting this adjustment from Bryce to be heavily Kyogre evolved, he's got the Wide Guard, he's got the Grass typing, he's got the Electric typing. These are all options that he could really go hard into just to shut down that really strong Kyogre mode that we know Bryce has available to him.
Yeah, spot on there. So, looks like our trainers have locked in their 4 selected Pokemon for this Game 3. Exciting to have to showcase a Game 3 as well today, so this will be good to see. We've had good adaptations from Yoav into the Game 2. Both players have been playing quite phenomenally, and we see double restricted lead from Yoav into the Urshifu and the Kyogre from Bryce.
Oh, so both players really going, all right, let's see how much damage we can deal on this turn 1. Yoav, double restricted. They're generally your hardest hitting Pokemon. And when you're looking at Calyrex and the damage that Body Press can dish out, it's massive. Calyrex, unlike Hearth Flame, can hit the Amoonguss without having to worry about Rain mitigating the damage. But on Bryce's side, he's got the Scarf Urshifu. It's in Rain. These Surging Strikes are hitting so hard. Kyogre looking a little vulnerable here, though. It's set up Rain, which is really good for Ursh, but the Kyogre is in a spot where it doesn't really want to be.
Yeah, so we see the Calyrex switching out here into the Raging Bolt, looking to potentially take those Scarf Surging Strikes. Good defensive play there from Yoav, if that does happen to be the case. Same for Bryce, going for the Amoonguss, could be in a similar light to that Body Press. And I think on Tad with that Body Press threat as well, we're going to see the Ghost Terastallization come out from the Urshifu, just to sort of protect itself as much as possible from the Zamazenta hit, probably knowing that the Urshifu is trained in a manner that it's very likely, if not guaranteed, to just pick up the Calyrex Shadow Rider with those Surging Strikes with a Rain boost.
Yeah, so those Focus Sash Calyrex generally tending to be trained more speedily, more specially offensive, less on the bulky side. Both trainers realizing, I got to get my special attacking restrictors out of here before they get knocked out. Raging Bolt, a perfect switch into those Surging Strikes. Even in rain, only dealing about 30%. It's got such a high base stat total, and it resists the hits, and that body press going to Amoonguss. So really good defensive switches from both players, and both players burning their Terra turn 1 on their fighting types.
Yeah, both for defensive options, one for the defensive option into the Surging Strikes, the other a defensive option into the body press, so looking to sort of just one up each other in a sense.
Yeah, and there's a lot of options now. So, like, we've got the redirection, which Bryce isn't going for. He's got the Terra Ghost active. He's like, look, you can Thunderclap me. I know I'm not going down to that from just a Thunderclap. Amoonguss being so threatening in Game 1 and being as hard targeted down as it was Game 2. Bryce wanting to keep it safe. The Raging Bolt now very low, possibly in range of a third Surging Strikes, but the Heavy Slam going into that Protect. And the Dragon Pulse as well.
Very nice Protect there from Bryce, looking to call that out. Urshifu sitting pretty. Probably going to look to be able to 1v1 the Raging Bolt just with Surging Strike damage, which is not a common sight that you see.
Yeah, so that left slot is pretty safe to throw a Surging Strikes into. The thing that would take it best, which we don't know if it's in the back or not, would be that Rillaboom if Yoav has chosen to bring it. Otherwise, nothing on the team really wants to switch into it. It's gotten away with taking no damage so far. And the Zamazenta protecting. Quite likely expecting a Spore to come out for when that Kyogre comes out. But it's just a Rage Powder coming out from the Amoonguss, keeping that Urshifu safe from, there it is, the Thunderclap.
Yep, and here we go. And looks like, cheeky, 8-9 hit KO? Yeah.
We got there eventually. It started off being such a good defensive switch in, but eventually that damage does still stack up. The critical hit, the rain, it adds up eventually. And as you said, after 8 hits, it got there.
Yeah, so Ogerpon is the confirmed 4th here for Yoav. Definitely not something that wants to take those Surging Strikes. It's still a neutral hit, but we saw the bulk of Raging Bolt and the resist and how much damage that was still taking, still just a crazy amount of damage. Amoonguss can still look to protect the Urshifu with Rage Powders. It would mainly be looking to protect it from Heavy Slams, as the Urshifu is a Ghost type, so immune to the body press.
Yeah, and this Urshifu and Amoonguss, it's so well positioned at the moment. Especially, that was a massive turn where Bryce called the double into Amoonguss and got the Protect. It gave Urshifu the room that it needed, but it's not actually looking like this Surging Strikes is going to be able to pick up the Ogerpon, and it's not. So Ogerpon really toughing it out for Yoav there, living that hit. And Yoav coming up for another double up onto this Amoonguss, coming so close. The body press and the Ivy Cudgel just barely missing out on KOing the Amoonguss. If that was a Heavy Slam, it may have gotten there. But body press covering that potential Incineroar switch in, covering that potential Kyogre switch in as well. But it just means that Amoonguss lives on a sliver of health.
Yeah, still there to fight another day. We did see the Pollen Puff come out there. I do believe there was a Follow Me that Pollen Puff would have redirected, potentially taken a KO. But here we see the Helping Hand. So, looking he's just going to go down, but he's going to get one last big hit off with Zamazenta.
Yeah, Zamazenta, I think Yoav realizing that he needs to really turn on the damage here. Start taking either KOs or putting in some damage. And that is some pretty good damage. Heavy Slam into the Urshifu. But it means the Amoonguss is still sticking around and goes down. Doesn't go down, sorry. It doesn't go down, and it gets to get off a Spore.
Yeah, it's very rough for that, but I do see why Yoav went for the Urshifu in regards to that. It doesn't bring in rain for free. It does force the switch from the Amoonguss to get Kyogre in to have rain set up. Potentially looking to try and live that Surging Strike, and the Calyrex definitely picks up a double knockout here with the Astral Barrage.
It sure does. I believe the Urshifu needs the rain to KO this Calyrex. It might... Yeah, so the Urshifu, 9 times out of 10 here, you want to be clicking this Surging Strikes into this Calyrex. The Calyrex is the thing that can really pull it back. The Calyrex, if it is bulky enough, could still be able to survive this Surging Strikes. But based off that first hit, it looks like, yeah, it is going to be going down. Yoav understood that this Urshifu is such a threat, and the previous turn trying to take it out, but it just wasn't enough, unfortunately. The Helping Hand not giving Zamazenta the damage boost that it needed, and the Calyrex goes down.
Yeah, so yeah, we're locked in here into a 4v1 scenario, the one being a sleeping Zamazenta. Not exactly what you want to see, but maybe we see a miracle come out. It does resist all of the Kyogre's hits onto it. The body press is still going to hit quite hard. Haven't revealed the fourth from Bryce yet, so Yoav doesn't know what that is in the back. But the single target water spout, that is just
massive water spout into a resisted hit. Yeah, that Zamazenta unfortunately not able to move before this Urshifu, and yeah, Yoav understanding that does forfeit the match, and that brings Bryce to a 2-1 win with a really good adjustment after that game 2.
Yeah, very solid adjustment there for sure. Realizing that the rain mode work, Zacian was good, but didn't get the result that he was after, and then going back with the Kyogre. It was mostly the Urshifu that really did it all, to be honest.
Yeah, so game 1, we saw that Amoonguss next to that Kyogre once they got positioned, putting in massive work. Game 2, the Kyogre, we didn't actually see it. The Amoonguss got doubled up onto early with the switch in, went down, and that redirection, that big, heavy support was not there, was not available. Game 3, Bryce looked at it, realized how pivotal that Amoonguss was, and how important the rain was as well. The rain let the Urshifu's damage be as good as it was. The rain let that Amoonguss survive the double up of Body Press and Ogerpon's Ivy Cudgel. The Amoonguss plus the water damage was just so pivotal.
Yeah, very, very tough to take on. The rain boosted, Mystic Water boosted moves that never to be slept on. Amoonguss just doing Amoonguss things, just showcasing just why that Pokemon gets used.
Yeah.
Yeah, very phenomenal support, especially in rain, because it's offsetting a lot of that fire type damage. Like, you saw how well it took that Ivy Cudgel in the rain in that game 3.
Absolutely. We're going to cut to just a minute break here while we get our players settled in for an interview, and then we'll be back for a chat with our players.
Alrighty, we're here with our post-match interview with Bryce and Yoav. Gentlemen, excellent showcasing. Let us know your thoughts on the set.
It was a sweat. I'll put it that way. I literally, and the funny thing is, because I play poker, and sometimes I just know when I'm going to cooler someone. As soon as I clicked that ice beam, I just knew it was going to freeze. I was like, please don't freeze. So I just knew. I was like, he's got a good position. Like, of course, we'll just, ruin the exhibition match with some hacks. But
yeah, it was a bit tough because I was trying to get in a position in the last game where I have Calyrex and Zama next to each other, so then I can just go Psychic Body Press into the Amoonguss slot and just try and pin it. Because then I KO the Amoonguss and then the Body Press gets redirected into Kyogre.
Yep.
But yeah, freeze, unfortunately, that sucked a bit.
Yeah, no, it was a good position for you. I think you would have had had a really good position for sure.
But besides that game, I think I played game 3 very poorly, and I think Luigi played it really well. I think on the turn he protected Amoonguss. I think me doubling to that slot was a huge throw because I needed to get rid of Urshifu because in rain it just one-shots my Calyrex. So even if he doesn't protect, which I thought he wasn't going to protect, and I get spored, like I'd still be in a like decent spot because I'd have Calyrex and on the field. But I think that turn where I doubled the Amoonguss and it protected like lost me the game instantly.
It was a pretty pivotal turn. We saw after that how much damage that Urshifu was able to do, even with the resisted hits on the Raging Bolt. It took a lot to get there, but it got there. Like, that damage was huge. But an interesting thing that I want to note on all 3 games, we saw adjustments from both of you. Game 1, Bryce only went with the Kyogre. We saw that Amoonguss Kyogre do a lot of work. The freeze helped a lot, but like the Kyogre Amoonguss was the big kind of pivotal part.
Yeah, that threw me off. Like, my Instant did nothing that game.
Game 2, we saw the switch up. We saw Bryce switch to just the Zacian, and you switched to the Hearth Flame, and the Hearth Flame caught the Zacian amazingly. Like, the adjustment from you there, making that call to the Hearth Flame was really big, and we saw how well it did for you in that game too.
Yeah, for sure.
After game 1 and the Amoonguss just spoiling everything, I was like, okay, I'm not having this.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as I saw that lead, I knew the game was basically over. Like, I had a couple of safe plays, but in terms of like trying to catch the bolt, like, I've just completely called me on lead because I thought that I could deal. As far as the matchup goes, I think like in general, Swordfish has an okay time into Zamazenta and Calyrex, most builds, but most people have dropped Bolt at this point. So I think once Bolt is added into the equation, it gets a lot more tricky. I think if it was like Whimsicott over Tornadus, that's probably a way to like kind of mitigate the matchup percentage loss. So trying to flowchart, knowing that Urshifu is the most important piece, but I have to deal with Rilla, Bolt, Cali, and then also Body Press is just doing infinite to me as well. Definitely made it tricky. Yeah.
I think the Amoonguss for you was pivotal because I played many games with the team I just used, and I'd always beat Zacian Ogre, but a lot of them didn't have Amoonguss, but Amoonguss was like so hard to deal with because it's like I don't really want to bring Ogerpon, but then if I don't, I have no Spore immunity, so it's like
for sure.
I think it was
the build that I'm using is Robbie's Swordfish team that he posted on YouTube. I changed a couple of things. I changed the Amoonguss to Focus Sash to try and help specifically for Kali-Assam because, if the Kali has Life Orb, then Psychic will just take it out in one hit. So being able to force the double up and therefore introduce a mind game where you can protect on a double up, which happened in game 3, is a slight adjustment that I made. And I also changed what was his 4th move? I think he had Coaching, and I changed it to Rock Tomb to add another annual speed control if I can bring Tornadus. But I think I could have played the end of game 3 a little bit cleaner as well. I actually didn't realize that Surging and Rain would do so little to Terrawater's arm. So I probably had to get in Amoonguss and get it next to Ursh, sack Amoonguss, and then bring in Torn because I had Torn in the back. Because I think if Zam got a 1-turn wake there at the end, Body Press Kyogre, that could have been in some trouble. But yeah.
You both brought some very, I guess, what early regulation I call standard teams. Zacian, Kyogre, and Calyrex Zamazenta being kind of the peak of this is what most people are using right now. What made you guys kind of come on to those teams? Yoav, what got you to use the Calyrex Zamazenta?
Well, I was testing a bunch of teams, and I just realized that this team I brought is like the most consistent team that I've been bringing, like into like basically almost all matchups. It's like very good. Where as I was running some other teams with like Cali Shadow and like Terapagos, and those teams just get destroyed by like Snarl Spam or like really like specially defensive teams, and like I wasn't really liking it, so I just tried this team out with like Cali Shadow Zam, and it was just like so consistent. Like I was just winning so many games on Showdown, and I was feeling confident coming into this, but I got humbled. So it's what it is.
That's
A
right.
freeze will do that. A freeze will do that.
It's the number one usage restricted core at the moment for a good reason. Like you said, like that consistency is just so important, and it's what you want when you have no idea what you're going to be going up against.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, Bryce, Swordfish, something that we saw a lot of back in 2022. What got you to kind of bring that in today?
So I only have a few games on that exact build. The main reason I picked it, like Kieran mentioned the Robbie team to me, and as soon as I saw Instant Amungus, I was kind of interested because generally, like most of the Kyogization builds that I was trying were generally HO leaning, and I tried some variants that had kind of like the off Trick Room element with either Indeedee or Farik, and then to kind of use like Zacian up front with Indeedee or Urshifu up front, and then kind of put some early damage down or go for a U-turn with Urshifu, and then set up Trick Room, bring in a slow Kyogre, and then do some like heal pulse stuff with Indeedee. It seemed okay. There was some like pretty bad matchups. Like Koraidon teams were just pretty heinous, to be honest, because even though Zacian has a pretty good matchup, like they can Terra Fire pretty easily, and you also have to be trying to control the weather war as well. So in terms of actually dealing damage to the Koraidon, but not losing the weather war can be a bit tricky. So when I saw this build with Instant Amungus, a bit more of a balanced style, something I'm a bit more comfortable with. And I'd also been looking for ways to use Amungus in this format, which has generally felt a bit underwhelming. For the most part, with Ogerpons all being just as good, if not better than the previous regulation, and then even like Wellspring being useful, it's been hard to like create some positions with it. But I think this team does a pretty good job at it, especially since you need to obviously deal with Zarm. So
absolutely, yeah. Kyogre's been one of the things that I've always felt comfortable with. Zacian Kyogre being just one of the best calls for it that it's kind of ever seen. And you really showcased how those with the support of Amungus could really put in work, even against some of the most used stuff and the kind of the as established best teams in the format.
Yeah, Zacian's just in a tricky spot because, being slower than Cali naturally, some formats, maybe Cali S isn't going max speed, but considering most of them always sash, like you're always going to lose that speed war. And then with it being partnered with Zama, which is now just the better of the two dog brothers, it's a bit tricky, I would say. When I'd been thinking about Cali S and my game plan for it, I wasn't used to Terra Waterza, which Yoav had. Most of the time I'm used to Terra Dragon, so you can create some pins with Play Rough and Water Spout, but wasn't able to do that, which definitely meant that I had to, make some gambits in the set, I would say, in terms of Terra Ghosting Ursh, which could potentially drop. I think it might be a roll to Dragon Pulse Heavy Slam. But yeah.
I think it would have dropped, yeah. So
yeah, I think it would.
My part.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, we still have more sets to showcase. So, gentlemen, thank you for your time today, and thank you for showcasing two very strong archetypes in the Regulation I format.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. GG's, Yoav.
Cheers, GG's.
Thanks, guys. Bye.